Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gotham City. I'm your host, Levy Rozman. This is a podcast where I talk to people who live in the chess world on the 64 squares and also beyond them. For this episode, my guest is Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky, competitive player, turned student, turned author, and now turned into Twitch and YouTuber, as well as consistent chess trainer. He and I are friends. So this episode is definitely a little bit less of an interview and more of a conversation. We talk about a lot of different things. And I hope you enjoy. Why are you drinking coffee at 8 p.m.? Is it decaf?
It's not decaf. It's been sort of a progression where I actually was not a coffee drinker until college.
Okay.
And then I kind of, started doing the 1 cup a day. Now I can't function unless I drink coffee in the morning. But I found that I like the taste of coffee and I like kind of sipping it throughout the day. It keeps me awake. And I can go to sleep easily after having a cup of coffee. Like I'm one of those people. I can have coffee and then 1 hour later be passed out.
That's crazy. Yeah, because if I drink coffee even at 4 or 5 p.m., sometimes I'll be laying in bed at midnight and my mind will be racing. Because for me, my brain can race before sleep and I can sort of shut it off. But if you add coffee to the equation, I'll be up till 3 or 4 in the morning. So I'm still at the cup of coffee in the morning. But what you do anything fancy for your coffee, or you just get like powder and drip?
I like to tell people that I'm a fancy coffee aficionado.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is this is like a pike from Starbucks. I don't mind going to Starbucks. I think I can appreciate gourmet coffee. So if I'm near a coffee shop, I'll definitely try something new, but my drink of choice is just black coffee. I usually don't put anything in it. I like cappuccinos and
Russian.
lattes. Extremely, yeah. I just need to get the caffeine into my jugular. Now, the funny thing is, I'm not one of those people who has very clearly defined dislikes. Like, oh, I will drink only this kind of coffee. You know, those people I've had situations where I have to get coffee for a bunch of people, and one of them gets a latte instead of a cappuccino because the barista messed up the order and they just won't drink it. They're spitting it out. I like lattes. I like cappuccinos. I like all coffee drinks.
Yeah. It's like, they needed a triple pumped
exactly.
Soy latte with one spritz of syrup in an avocado or something.
And if that spritz isn't there, it's not drinkable anymore.
They can tell. Yeah, they can tell. No, I mean, I also just get black coffee. Sometimes I get it with... I like iced coffee a lot, actually. I find that if I go and I buy an iced coffee and it's a large iced coffee, I'll drink the whole coffee and I'll actually feel its effect. Whereas if I'm brewing coffee here in my house, I'll drink a third of it and it's disgusting and I don't even want it anymore. So I'm probably doing something wrong. But
well, if it's cold, it also coffee ages very, very poorly. Whereas cold brew, I mean, you can drink it over the course of 2-3 hours. So I really like cold coffee as well.
So, how's your sleep schedule nowadays? I had Levy Rozman on here. He was telling me all this stuff about 24 hours in a day, and he doesn't something along those lines, and he can't get his sleep together. And you still sleeping at 5 a.m. or what? What are you doing now on a day? You were doing a lesson right before this, but tell me about the sleep first.
It's gotten better. It used to be like the old Russian joke. I heard it in the context of Mikhail Tal, but I think it's got its origins elsewhere. They asked Mikhail Tal whether the rumor about him training over 24 hours a day was true, and he said yes. And they said, "How is that possible?" And he just said, "I get up an hour earlier." So my life is very much like this up until about, I'd say, 2 months ago. Again, as with a lot of things in my life, it was a progression. I think college was a gateway for me. I was a normal high schooler. I would go to sleep at 11. I always liked staying up late. It was always in my blood, but I would keep myself under control. I'd, wake up at 6:30. Then when I went to college, my earliest classes were, 10:30 or 11. So I would start staying up until 2 or 3. And I found that I could get my most productive work done then. I would have plenty of binge chess.com sessions, as you can understand, until very late into the night.
Were you streaming still in college? Or
no,
toward the end of college?
Started toward the end of college. I started streaming, if memory serves me right, end of junior year. Okay. And I'm sure we'll get to that. I'll tell you about the whole, how it started, because it's kind of a weird, it was a weird way that I started streaming. But before then I would just play, and I was absolutely addicted. That's part of the reason I knew I wanted to get back into chess after college. Like I always, my first instinct when I had a moment of free time, or when I didn't, was to log in and start playing Bullet and Blitz.
But me too, just worse than you, but me too. Yeah. Like I'll be running late to something and I'll have 15 minutes, and like part of that 15 minutes is sitting down and like pooping, and I'll play 2 Blitz games. Like it's
the phone's out.
It's bad, boom. But it's also better than, I guess, Twitter for no reason. So anyway, continue.
No, I agree there. So the problem was I would stay up until 3 or 4, and then I'd still wake up at 9 or 10. And, in college at 19 or 20, I could still handle that. I would get 5-6 hours of sleep. I wouldn't feel great, but I would kind of coffee my way through the day. Mm-hmm. Then, when I finished college, I simply carried, when I moved to Charlotte, my friends would say, or my brother would say, that I'd keep West Coast hours on the East Coast because I'd always be up when they were going to sleep. And I kind of found that my best streaming niche was that late night slot. I would often have lessons throughout the day. And then by 9 or 10 p.m., my phone would quiet down. I'd give my last lesson and I'd say, and I'm going to do a 2-3 hour stream, which would turn into a 5-6 hour stream. I end the stream at 2-3 a.m. and then I can't go to sleep immediately. Right. I have to watch something. By the time I'm in bed, it's 4 or 5. That continued for a long time. And of course, now that I didn't have any morning classes or morning lessons, I could sleep in until noon or 1 p.m. I think people look at that and they say, how can you be such a degen? Well, that's how it happens. When there's no necessity to get up, you're going to sleep. I didn't like that was the case, and I always wanted to change it, but that's how it sort of progressed. And I'd have crazy days when I would stream until 8 or 9 a.m. and then sleep until 5 or 6. And that's kind of sad because I don't think my body is made for that. I would always feel like shit.
Right. But I'd wake up. The second thing you mentioned kind of maybe sounds like degen life. I mean, there's a cutoff, right? I think
yes.
that, okay, I mean, are nurses degenerates because of their sleep schedule? No, they're nurses, right? So
right, exactly.
So
but streamers are.
Yeah, we get a bad, okay, you're a chess streamer. If you were at least staying up doing Fortnite, I mean,
exactly,
maybe
more
it's
respectable.
But you were teaching, and then I don't know, I feel like if you're still getting a decent amount of sleep, then
right.
It doesn't. I have my friend Alex is the same, or he was for a while, but he would frequently. I would wake up in the morning to a message from him at 5:30 a.m. Some link on Reddit to something, and,
right?
Then he wakes up.
See the latest, yeah. Blah blah blah.
So, but yeah, 8, 9 to 5, 6. That's also rough because when you wake up, you're already sad because the day is over. No,
the day's over, and you have this pang of regret. Like, why did I do this to myself?
And then that night, you're in the same situation because exactly. It's hard to break out of it. It's hard.
Or you tell yourself, I'm going to quote unquote reset the cycle. I'm going to pull an all-nighter, but that all-nighter ends up just. And sometimes I would, but then I would sleep 13 or 14 hours. So.
Is that real? That you could just stay up all night, like to reset, kind of like you're flying through airports? Is that a real thing? Or
I would try that. I mean, I would pull all-nighters, and then I would go to bed at like 12 a.m. or 1 because I'd get a second wind, and then I wouldn't be able to go to sleep. And at this point, I've stayed up for like over 24 hours. But the problem was I always got a very bad headache when I woke up, even if I got a lot of sleep. I think that's actually a documented thing. Who would believe that when you abuse your body like this, it responds negatively? And I was just such a zombie. I hated it, and there was no reason for me to do it. But the other thing that would happen is that, I would send emails out at 5:30 to parents, and they would respond saying, wow, you're like Tim Cook, you get up at 4:45, like those people who exit the gym at 5:45 a.m.
Yep.
Those are the people I'd see when I would go to Starbucks after staying up all night. But yeah, I mean, it would definitely create repercussions. I overslept some stuff. I overslept some commentary. I overslept quite a few lessons that I had naively scheduled for 11 or 12. One time I even overslept a 2 p.m. appointment. And it didn't happen so often to where people really got angry, but I knew I needed to change that. It's tremendously irresponsible. And the problem is, it's a cycle. You always lie to yourself. And so that was kind of the impetus. In the last couple of months, I've made a lot of improvements. I don't really stream until 3 anymore. I know that some people are sad at that, but I have tons of work to do. I slip and relapse, but it's much, much better. I can see what I was missing all this time.
But I'm gonna play a little bit of devil's advocate here because I was in a similar situation, and I made an effort to completely cut off lessons, so I didn't have any responsibilities beyond the content, and I could sleep in, and I didn't have to teach. But did you ever struggle with the fact that, truthfully, the streaming is a far greater ROI than than a private lesson? And so in some case you're like, if I oversleep it, sorry parents, by the way, if anyone listens to this, and Daniel's your coach, but so I was wondering, like, you still teach, right? So why? I want to know.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't have a clearly defined answer. That's the thing. You're right about the ROI. YouTube streaming, I could cut out all lessons and financially probably making more if I filled up some of that time streaming or working on YouTube only content. The answer that my heart gives is, well, I love teaching, and I do love teaching. And I'm blessed to have a couple of students who are masters who I've been with for a very long time and who've improved tremendously. There's also something about teaching that, to me, it's different than streaming. Yes, it's less ROI, but at the same time, it's more predictable. Sometimes streaming can be stressful. And I did downsize my teaching, and I downsized it pretty heavily. I also have a very hard time releasing students. I have an extremely hard time saying no to anybody. And I get probably on the order of 5 to 10 emails a day. And a lot of them have the same structure because I said on my stream that I'm not taking any new students. So the email will say, it will start with, I know that you said you're not taking any new students, but I would like you to consider my very unique set of circumstances and the fact that I'm willing to work very hard. And I wish I could convey to these people, it tears my heart out. It's not that I don't want to have them as a student. I just literally, I do not have the time. And even if I did, I wouldn't be able to put in the requisite effort that they deserve given what I charge. So it's created the situation where I'm trying to find the right balance. Ideally, I would have 4 or 5 students and still have time for them. As it stands, I have a little bit more than that at the moment, and it's tough. I'm trying to make that decision actively. Like, do I continue to teach? I can always come back to teaching, when I'm 30 or 35 and I've, and my circumstances change,
and you don't need to stream anymore or make YouTube videos. Yeah, I'm also actively thinking about, man, am I really going to be 10? In 10 years, am I really going to be 35 going,
gray haired,
yeah. Oh, dude, I'm not gonna have any hair at 35. It's gonna be like all gone. I'll be like making more videos about 300s playing each other. I mean, I don't think we're gonna be there in a decade. So yeah, and by the way, just so listeners understand, I'm not money hungry psycho, and I was gonna say, and you are much more. It's admirable, obviously, because you actually care about the work. I actually left teaching for particularly that reason. I felt like my influence and my desire and my effort was just waning. Like we also have a fundamental difference, right? I think you work with intermediate and advanced, and like you just said, master players. I focused on 5 to 10-year-olds that are beginner to 800 because I had a scholastic chess program. So at some point, I Londoned my last London. I made
Vienna, your last Vienna.
Yeah, well, no, I wasn't even teaching those kids. Those kids to Vienna. No, God.
It was, yeah.
It's just I got tired of it because there's only so many hours you can spend on a Zoom call when the pandemic starts teaching a 7-year-old that chess is important. Right. And I actually have always wondered, with teaching intermediate and advanced folks, how, do you not run out of content? I mean, at some point, do you create lessons prior, like lesson templates, and you go through the lesson with 5 or 6 different students? Like, I know some coaches do that, including mine, Wojciech. At some point, how do you fill up the lesson content over all these years?
Right. Well, first of all, I think working with beginners is really, really hard. So I admire you for that. I think it's one of the hardest things, one of the hardest categories to teach, because especially with kids, you have to keep them interested. And I mean, you don't need me to tell you this, obviously. I know you know
got to deal with parents telling you how to teach the kids too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
no, they know you sometimes begin to wonder, why are they hiring in the first place if they already know the keys to the kingdom? They know how to make their child a GM.
Yep.
But with intermediate advanced students, yes, to a degree, I obviously use some of the same positions for multiple students, provided that it fits the kind of work I want to be doing. But I do prepare for lessons. I have a lot of books that I use, which are less known. Some of them are behind me. And, I spend a lot of time scouring ChessBase. What I often do is I'll take a relatively little known GM, right? Some Russian, Vladimir Liberzon, or name a Soviet player.
Igor Yagupov.
Igor Yagupov, yeah, exactly. Or some a combination of Boris and Smirnov and some.
There, yeah, it's like 14 of them right there.
Exactly. And I will, I'll look through their mega base games and I'll do some I'll search based on certain material and I'll look at their end games and I'll generate, and I'll look at it with an engine and I will generate exercises based on the games and the moments that I find instructive. And almost every GM you can find instructive content if you look hard in almost every game of chess played between two GMs. What I think one of my greatest weaknesses is as a coach, and this is what's really bothering me given my time constraints, is that I often find that I don't have time to make homework for my students. And I'm just in general really, really bad at telling my students, especially my master students, what they should be doing or working on. And I often promise them I'll be giving you material and I'll be telling you what I think you need to work on. But what ends up happening is that either I don't have the time or I don't find the time to sit down and think about what books they should be reading and to photocopy and send them positions.
Right. Yeah.
And partially I've spoken to other coaches who say, well, I'd never give homework. It's up to a master level kid should be able to know what they need to be working on. And I give them pointers and stuff. But I'm satisfied with the way that I prepare for lessons. I'm not satisfied with the way that I sometimes don't engage between lessons. And that's just something that I need to work on and think about. But, that's one area that I need to improve. But to answer your question, yeah, that is how I prepare. And, sometimes I have to admit there are lessons where I just woke up 5 minutes ago. I didn't get a chance to prepare for it. And I whip out some random Naroditsky book and, just go to page 25 and try to generate something productive out of the position I see there.
The truth is, if the rating gap is large enough, it's really hard to bullshit a lesson with a 2200, especially if they don't have any games, right? That's the thing. If they've played games and they come to if they come either with tournament games or online games, and you can actually go through it and their openings and everything, but they just show up what are we going to learn today, coach? You're like, uh-oh.
Not Morphy, Duke of Brunswick. I can't show that to a 2200.
With beginner, it's they haven't seen the Immortal game. All right, well, we can talk about all sorts of tactical patterns and everything, and it's harder. Yeah, with some intermediate players, I would actually play Blitz throughout the week and mark games down. I'd be like, okay, right here, there's a dynamic moment. Let's learn about.
All right, I've done that too.
Yeah, no, but the truth is, you played maybe hundreds, if not thousands, of Blitz games in a week. Some of those games are more high quality than the student will ever play in their life. So of course, you can use
sometimes you'll find insane tactical moments in a game behind the scenes, and I'll be like, wow, this is amazing. But yeah, I mean, I've also had my share of adult students. My adult students are generally a little bit weaker than master level. They're generally in the 16 to 1900 range.
What's the biggest difference that you've seen between teaching kids and teaching adults?
It's a great question. Let me think about that for a second.
I'll tell you mine, just because I thought about it.
Jog the juices of creativity. Yeah, I'm curious.
So kids have no inhibitions, right? Kids are not afraid of being wrong, even to a horrible point where they'll just call out all the time. Some of them are a little bit nervous, some of them are apprehensive, but adults, I've noticed, so this is one thing that they do. They will look at a position, and adults come in with the mentality of, this is my idea, but it's probably wrong. And they'll just end their statement with that. Oh, it's probably wrong, oh, this,
right.
And that blows my mind, that they're not just, what do you mean it's probably wrong? Would you play like that during your games? Oh, I'm going to play this move, but it's probably wrong.
I'm not going to play it then, yeah.
So there's that. It's that adults are they just know life. They're more uncertain. They know that being right is a really difficult thing sometimes. And even people I've met on the street, the thing they say to me is, "Oh, I'm not as good as you." Well, no shit. I mean, why would you be watching chess on YouTube if you were? They say that. Like, that's just the thing that they say to me. Just in small talk, if they recognize me or something. I'm like, adults have this weird, I don't know. It's like you push yourself down a little bit. And also, I don't know, adults will create abstract frameworks for learning chess, right?
Oh, that's exactly what I was thinking as you were saying that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll let you kind of, they go big picture and they start doing all this and creating their own training simulations and.
Right. I think obviously we have our own experiences, but I think we're thinking similarly, Brad. Like I still have a student. I won't mention him by name. Let's call him, I don't know, Stephen Colbert. No, just kidding. Or something like insert celebrity. That's not what student is. But he's a great guy, and I love working with him. But he'll do that thing where I'll give him just a very concrete tactic, and he'll start applying these, like you said, very broad frameworks. So he'll start noticing. He'll rattle off a 7 or 8 move maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be like, if I can get my knight from A2 to H6, then I will have this other sacrifice. And I'm like, insert name. How many moves does it take to get your knight there? Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why are you thinking about this maneuver? It's a wide open position. It's not realistic. So there is this, desire to frame positions and to think in these pretty rigid structures. And I think my good friend Peter Giannatos, who gave an interview to Perpetual Chess, Peter and I were talking about this. I think adults just in across all fields, language learning, that's why I think language learning is so much harder, is because your brain is just not as plastic. And once you learn a particular thinking framework, even if it's very, very wrong, it's going to be very hard for you to escape it. And I had another student who I trained with for a couple of months, and we ended on very, very good terms, but unfortunately he didn't improve much. And I always felt like every lesson I was trying to root out some of his false thinking patterns. Like he would make the same oversights because he wouldn't notice the same things about the position. Mm-hmm. And in that sense, kids are easier to work with. Like they do internalize stuff, even if it takes them some time. And even if they argue with you, even my master level kids, like they will understand the truth of what I'm saying. But adults can, on the one hand, be too accepting, like they will never push back on anything I'm saying, but then they're going to continue repeating their mistake. Not trying to shit on adult students. I love my adult students. I think adults can improve, blah, blah, blah. But that is the reality, I think, of working with adults. Of course, it's also nice that I don't have to deal with parents and they pay on time. And that stuff really does help a relationship because, parents, I think on the whole are very well intentioned, but sometimes I just don't feel like explaining for the 800th time why I assigned this problem or why I looked over that game and not this game.
Yeah, you get families who you when you moved to Charlotte, obviously in the Bay Area, you did your thing. When you moved to Charlotte, did you go to in-house lessons? Like you just traveled to homes and?
Yeah, I still have a couple of in-person lessons, which we resumed after we got vaccinated. But I had maybe 3 or 4 in-person lessons. Now I would say I have 2 students who are in person.
You have like favorite families who will treat you nicely, get you tea, sometimes get you food.
Stay for dinner.
Yeah, those are the best. You got to time those. You always have the families where you have to end your day, so they might feed you.
Right, exactly. And I had such a student in the Bay Area. I would go to their house, and they'd appreciate that I would suffer the Bay Area traffic. So they'd always feed me, and always a new wine was opened.
Wow, you even got wine.
I got wine, and I had to, I always refuse the second glass,
Right. Oh yeah, because you have to drive. Yeah.
Right, but
I'm a new driver, and I just went to Charlotte for this Norm event, and I was with Kyron and Alex. Alex doesn't drive, Kyron does, and we would all be at a restaurant, and the first night we all got alcohol, and I'm watching these guys down their drinks, and I'm my Blue Moon sitting there. Right. I'm like, I don't know, can I drink a beer and drive? Like so I just didn't. I didn't even touch it, but. This stuff that's on my mind, man. Like, Gotham Chess DUI, Daniel Naroditsky DUI. Oh my God. Like it's.
Well, that is a fear that we always, because I think, and again, I'm not trying to put words in my mouth, but I do sometimes think, all it takes is just something very incautious like that. And so it's better to err on the side of caution when you've got a lot of eyes on you. You don't want to mess with anything that could that could reflect negatively like that. But I have the same thoughts when I'm ordering a glass of wine at a restaurant. Like I try to cap myself.
That's good. In New York, we just take Ubers
Right.
but
Yeah, Charlotte has no public. You got to drive here. It's like,
no, I know, yeah, but renting a car was nice. It was the first time I've rented a car at a chess tournament, and I have to say it was awesome. We went to a bowling alley on the day that we had only one round. And you know about this bowling alley? It's like behind the mall or something over there.
oh, right next to the chess center.
Yeah, there's like an entertainment complex, arcade, bowling alley.
Oh, and it's
laser
also like
tag,
a bar, right?
and a bar. Yeah, it was crazy.
Okay, yeah, I know that area. I've never been there though.
We just looked it up. It was like in the backyard of some mall. It was the craziest thing ever.
Wow.
I've never went bowling in the middle of a chess tournament and made it worth
Charlotte
it.
is like that. It's you come and you think it's just strip malls, but then there's these really lovely places that are hidden in very in spots where you don't think anything nice would be hidden, and restaurants like that too. There's all sorts of restaurants, but you gotta know where you're going. It's not like I would imagine Manhattan or San Francisco where you can just point on a spot on the map, and there will probably be like a 5-star Burmese restaurant within a block.
Yep.
That's San Francisco. That's what I miss about it.
I was gonna ask you. That was gonna be my segue into asking you how the hell you went from living in SF, which is a top 5 metropolitan city in the country. I mean, listen, I kind of don't like SF. I'm just gonna let you know right now.
I mean, I moved from San Francisco, and I'm no huge defender of San Francisco.
I've traveled there multiple times. I've never in my life felt more in danger than in San Francisco.
Yes.
Like interacting with different folks on the street, some unsavory individuals. I visited Alexandra Botes way back in 2018 and in June, and I stayed one night, I think, just to like visit, say what's up. This was, before chess was anywhere near on the map. She's like, yo, you only here for one night? Me and my friends, we're gonna go out. It's gonna be great. I was like, dope. Got my best shirt on. We go to the Tenderloin district. I'm like, that sounds cool.
Oh,
Tenderloin.
I'm
like, Tenderloin. Sure, speakeasy. Sure. We pull up in a white Escalade in a giant Uber, like a white Cadillac Escalade. We get out, and a dude walks like by us and is like, yo, he says to Alexandra and her friend, he's like, you're walking around like here dressed like that, you're gonna get hit, bitch. I was like,
right.
What? Huh?
Yeah, welcome to San. That was your welcome.
Huh? And then we had to like run. We ran to the speakeasy from this crazy person.
Well, I remember, when I would play a game at the Mechanics Institute Chess Club, which is in the financial district downtown. My dad used to drive me back and forth, but when I got older, I would take BART, which is Bay Area Rapid Transit, which is nice, but the BART station is right next to the Mechanics. But when the game finished, it was 9 or 10 p.m. and I would sprint to the BART station. And even on the train, you're just looking around because BART gets really sketchy at all hours of the day, but particularly at night. So the thing that people don't understand about San Francisco, that when I say I'm from San Francisco, but I'm from the suburbs, the Bay Area is a big place. There's San Francisco and San Jose. There's Berkeley and Oakland, and the relationship is the Bay Bridge connects San Francisco to Berkeley and Oakland. That's on the other side of the bay. San Francisco and San Jose are at like opposite ends of the 101 freeway. And between SF and San Jose, there's all these small cities. San Mateo, I'm from San Mateo, San Bruno, Redwood City, San Carlos. These are all cities with population 60, 70,000. You can live your entire life in the Bay Area and barely go to San Francisco itself, which is my case. I would only go to the city to entertain friends or to play at the Mechanics Institute. The Bay Area itself, including San Jose, is very nice. Obviously, the cost of living was a very big reason I moved to Charlotte. Just very practically speaking, I respect people's choices. I'm not in the business of comparing my living situation to others, but given my need to stream, I didn't want to have a roommate. And to live in San Francisco or in the Bay Area without a roommate, it's somewhere nice that's not right over the edge of the freeway. Prepared to fork over $5,000-$6,000 a month. I was not prepared to fork that over, particularly because my streaming career had not really taken off yet. And the things that I do, I could do them from anywhere, not to mention all my friends here. But yeah, but San Francisco itself, I have a very love-hate relationship with.
When you, by the way, I completely echo that with New York City. And probably when I do have an opportunity, I will promptly depart. But sadly, that opportunity has yet to exist. Not to mention families all here, and I know you had to deal with. How did that happen? How did you move from California to Charlotte, like I know that you are kind of what they call the GM in residence, which is a concept that a chess club brings in a accomplished individual, like builds around them, gives you things. Did they reach out to you? Did you reach out to them? How did that happen?
Yeah, so Peter Giannatos and I, he's the founder and director of the Chess Center, have been friends for a while, probably about 5 years. We met at a chess camp in Atlanta, and I would say a year into our friendship, 2017, I was maybe a sophomore, he floated the idea of me, I would come to Charlotte probably a couple times a year to visit and just, screw around. So he floated the idea of me moving to Charlotte at the end of my Stanford career to be a GM in residence. And he said, all the talking points, cost of living, you'd be in a place where you're supported. I would say, Peter, shut the fuck up. It's not happening. I'm doing my master's degree when I graduate. I'm not moving away from the Bay Area. I'm not moving across the country. Like, I know you think it's easy, but, stay in your lane, Peter. And we had that conversation like every year. We would converge on the Castle Chess Camp in Atlanta. Daniel, you're a junior now. Did you maybe think about, you like it so much in Charlotte? Peter, shut up. So finally, I graduate. I'm about to start my master's program in history. I'm literally 3 weeks away from the start of it's called a co-term. It's like a accelerated master's program. And I met up with my friend, and we had some Saturday morning beers. And this is my close college friend who was my roommate junior. He says, Daniel, I got to tell you this. I know you're doing your master's. I'm happy for you, but like, I can tell that you really want to move to Charlotte. And he pulls this out of the blue. I felt like I'd never talked to him. He was a non-chess friend. I didn't even know he knew about Charlotte. And apparently I kept slipping it in my conversations. And I went home that day and I deliberated and I said, Peter, I think would always tell me, like the opportunity train doesn't come around many times. And I realized that this was like a watershed moment in my life. And I don't think I would be miserable if I did my master's. I think that was just, I could play Queen E4 and I could play Knight G5. And I decided to play Queen E4. And I said, there's no reason I can't do this. I dropped out of my program. Initially, I basically deferred it. Then when I realized I wanted to remain in Charlotte, I dropped it. And I said, if things don't work out in Charlotte, I can come back. It was tough on my family. All of that stuff logistically was very tough, but I've never looked back. I knew that this was what I wanted to do. I knew that if it didn't work out, I wouldn't have the regret that I did something that I knew would be wrong. Like my intuition was saying, move to Charlotte, do what you want to do what you love. Nobody's going to come in and do it for you. Like I realized that I have to take charge of my own decisions, and you can live, nobody's going to stop you from living the life the way that you want to live it. And this can connote something both good and bad, I think. And that's how it happened. I moved and, I've been here since, and I've basically settled.
I've never been such a believer in these moments in life where you really just have this moment. You have several of these moments, I think, throughout life. But you have this moment like, I really got to get my shit together, or right. I really got to just make this. Like, it's either A or B. I mean, and right now I have to choose it. And I think we're only a month apart in age. I think you're November 95.
November 95.
Yeah. So November 2nd.
9th.
Damn
Close
it!
enough.
Somebody else I know.
Unacceptable. You don't know my birthday, Levy. Come on.
Actually,
get your shit together.
Yeah. Straight up. I'm having one of these moments right now. Like we're 25, almost 26, but you have this moment. You have these moments, and it's good you did it, because what really was the plan if you got a master's? You had a history degree, right?
It was the stall. That was why, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't really do internships. I half-assed my internship application process in junior. I applied to consulting firms. There was a phase where I wanted to do consulting. I didn't know anything about it. To be honest, I wanted to play tournaments and teach at camps, but I did it to make my family happy. And I did it because that's what you were supposed to do. History majors, humanities majors in Stanford who want to find employment, they go into consulting or they go into law school. Those are like the two kind of buzzwordy application, areas where history majors go. I got rejected from the internships because my resume was just chess. I didn't realize it at the time, but I went to like a career counselor after that, and she said, like, this is the reason why they didn't even consider you. You have to have some diversity in your resume. I thought that it would be appreciated that I sort of did one thing for my whole life, and I was kind of okay at it and I suck at everything else, but that's not how recruiters think. So anyways, I didn't really get any internships. So the plan was just to do this master's and maybe go to grad school, maybe go to law school. I had honestly no fucking idea like what I wanted to do. I did, but I was kind of in self-denial. I was like, I can't make a living from chess. That's what I've been taught. That's how I've been conditioned. So it has to be something else. Like chess is not an option. And I guess I just asked like, why? Like, why do I keep telling myself that? And why do I keep denying myself the opportunity to at least try, proverbially, doing what I love? That's a cliche, but why don't I give it a shot? Like, who's stopping me?
Well, you know what the craziest thing about that is? So just like in perspective, you and I started college, I think both. Did you take a gap year?
I did, yeah, after high school.
Right, to play chess, right? So, but we started, like, we would have started college at the same time. So when I started college, that was 2013. I had like, I think I was 2300 USCF. Like you started college as a 2600 GM. Like, and
Right.
even you are saying chess can't make you a career at that point, which is kind of insane. We were doing the same career. We had the same career. We were teaching.
Right.
That's it. And I'm curious, what is the, if you're comfortable sharing, but I mean, obviously It's also like 5 years ago. What is like a going rate for a GM in the Bay Area doing lessons? Either what did you charge her or what could you get away with kind of a thing?
Yeah, I was charging $100 an hour. I could probably get away with 150.
Okay.
Back then, again, this is like 5 years ago in college.
So just so you know, if you're a 1000 rated player in New York City and you are part of an after school program, not you don't run it or something, but if you're just brought in, you can make $80 an hour. Like,
right.
It is a broken market here. I mean, masters who are charismatic and can get along with parents, easy 250, 300. I mean, you get some ultra rich people, you could 500. They don't bat an eye.
I mean, maybe I could get away with that in the Bay Area. I based my rate off of what my coaches had charged and my conversations with friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an argument with my parents about this, and who basically were saying like, I have a tendency. I wouldn't say that I have a tendency to undervalue myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like ripping people off. I really don't. And to me, like, given my situation in Stanford, $100 an hour, given the amount that I was teaching, was an acceptable income.
Yeah.
And I felt like, yes, maybe I could. And I raised my rate later, obviously, but I felt like I could get away with charging more. But, how will I feel about that? And what will be the material impact on my life? And will it turn out that I kind of sold my soul? I had all these weird considerations, but most of all, I was afraid that, if I was really ripping people off, it would damage my reputation. And I just don't know. I don't know if chess lessons are worth like $300 an hour.
Of course not.
Jesus Christ himself is teaching you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of why I asked, just so people understand. I mean, there's people listening to this going, "Are they nuts? Even $20 an hour in
right?
where I live."
$100 an hour, you piece of shit! Like, how dare you?
The problem is that you guys have to understand. There's no when you teach chess, you work from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's your slot because everybody's in school.
Right.
And you teach Saturday, Sunday. And I used to have a route like a paper boy. On Saturday, I would take a walk to a lesson. I would walk three blocks to the next lesson and 2 blocks to the next lesson. I had this perfect string, and then I would take the train to Manhattan and finish my day there. And it's 7 p.m. By the end of the day, I've made whatever. I did $80 an hour for a long time, and then I was like, what am I doing? There's people 2 miles over there in Manhattan who are 800 points lower rated than me, probably charging double.
$100 more.
Yeah.
So, it's that's very true. And and I think the other thing people don't realize sometimes when I say, okay, I teach $100 an hour, in their minds, they make this calculation. Okay, 5 lessons a day, 500 times 7, 3,500 times 52 weeks in a year, whatever, 175,000. But that's a very naive way of looking at it, because one lesson, and I'm sure you can relate with me on this, can make you exhausted. Like a single hour of teaching a particular student, for example, you can be so wiped out. And teaching more than like 3 lessons a day, it's fucking hard. I mean, and you can't teach 7 days a week. It's such a demanding thing to teach a good chess lesson. every minute is filled with content. Every minute is filled with you searching the depths of your mind for the right way to explain something. And I'm not saying you can't, there's no English translation. There's this Russian word, khaltura, to phone it in, to mail it in. And there are coaches who phone it in. They do the same thing with every student, but that's not in my DNA. I would never be able to live with myself while doing that. I have to try my best. And to do that, you can't teach the copious amounts that people think you can.
Yeah, it's not back to back to back. Like sometimes Alex will send me a screenshot of his schedule. He has a 1 to 2, a 2:15 to a 3:15, a 3:30 to a 4:30. I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind? Like that would.
Right.
Now remote is easier because
right.
you're not. But
still is tough.
Yeah.
I would do that sometimes, and I'm like, the next day I'm just in bed all day. Like I can't. It's exhausting.
Yeah, and by the end of the day, you're also just, man, I really should have only done 3 today, right. Instead of 4. And I wanted to change gears because I wanted to ask you about Charlotte, and I'm happy we talked about it because it's a big move, and it's coming up for me in the future probably too. Like Lucy and I will most likely either go to the middle of the country or all the way to the other side of it, or not in the country. So that's something we'll have to. We'll have to address it. I'll have that moment. I want to talk to you about playing because, and first we can start with the online and then we can move to the more serious stuff. So I would consider you, I don't know if you consider you, I would consider you a top 5 1-0 player like in the world, right? Like when people think you and you come up in clips and they watch your stuff, I mean, it's just insane tactics like H4, H5, like, right. Aggression, initiative, creativity. I don't know who out there can like give you a formidable challenge in 3-0 consistently, but you're probably top 10, top 15 in 3-0. When you add that +1, it can be a pain in the ass.
Right. It is a pain in the ass. I hate increment.
But so I'm wondering, what's been your journey and your experience to getting to where you are, and a key component, honestly, for me personally. How do you deal with nerves when you play all these top guys? Like, when did you overcome that? When did you become the aggressor? Become the hunter? Unless you're playing Magnus. Right. Like, tell me all about that.
Yeah, no, I love talking about that. I mean, I think that Blitz and Bullet has sort of always been in my DNA. It's always been something I've done. I think it had to do with the fact that my very first coaches, they were always Russian. And they were like in their 60s, they were local masters in the Bay Area. And in that demographic, just meeting up for some blitz, we did that. I would always remember if I did well in the lesson, Igor, who was one of my first coaches, he would give me a blitz game and I'd always lose. I would also play with my brother a lot. So blitz was just a way of learning for me. And sometimes I surf some of my old games back on ICC, and I started playing there in 2004. I was 8 going on 9, which is a pretty young age to start playing blitz regularly. And I was addicted to it. I was immediately addicted to it. I've always had a tactical style. I mean, I could go into why that is, but I've always liked tactical openings. My first opening was like C3 Sicilian, Scotch. So maybe partially because of my first coaches, I've always liked open center positions and sacrifices and queen sacrifices. I loved it when my coach showed me, unknown brilliancies and studies. So all of that, I was swirling around in those juices, right? And I have an ICC account, and I play there a lot. And I have a story about that. So, that led me into some trouble because one time I would play a Tuesday night regular game at the Mechanics. And when I was 1800, I played this horrific game against the 1400, and I blundered a knight in 1 move. Mm-hmm. And I came out with my excuses, like I thought it was a sacrifice, the classic, like trying to justify it to your coach. My coach told something to my dad, and my dad basically said, you need to stop, like not in much more forceful terms. He said, you played 70 bullet games yesterday. And I said, no, it wasn't 70, but he went into my game history, and I was playing until like 12 a.m., which was, remember, I was 11 or 12. There was a curfew. I violated by several hours. There was a computer time limitation. I violated that by several hours. There was problems. And I was studying with John Donaldson at the time. And he had a talk with me. So this got me into trouble, but I didn't stop playing. There was a probationary period where my amount of bullet games were checked, but eventually, you know, people go back to their jobs and everything, and I would go back to my copious chess. So when chess.com appeared on the scene, I made an account around 2014, 15. And then I would say when I really started finding out that I was actually a really good blitz and bullet player, like around 2016, when I started Stanford, that's when my addiction went into full force. All of the bullet marathons with Hikaru and all of that stuff would happen. I think I improved pretty considerably as a result of all of the practice I got with these top GMs. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I just got better and better. I became one of the top bullet players on chess.com. And I think I've always had that speed. I used to play on a trackpad. I think this is pretty well known by now. When I got a mouse, it was like I was blind, but now I see. And I haven't looked back since. I mean, people ask me, what is it about bullet that you like? And the other thing, and I'm sure we'll get into that, I think that people don't understand is like, if I'm this good at bullet and blitz, why doesn't that translate into classical? You know, like I'm not bad at classical, but I'm nothing special, all things considered. And what I struggle to transmit to people is that blitz and bullet, it is chess, but it's a completely different animal. And the strengths that are overvalued in blitz and bullet, tactical vision, speed, those are my strengths in classical chess. And the areas where I'm comparatively speaking weaker, like positional understanding, technique, they are naturally undervalued because of the time control. So I think ultimately that's why blitz is the game for me, because it accentuates my strengths. All of these crazy sacrifices that I always love calculating in classical chess, but that never work, I can get away with them. So, yeah. And in terms of nerves, the last thing I'll say is that honestly, sometimes I'm just having so much fun that I don't even notice how nervous I am. Like I'll have a session with Hikaru or Nepo, and in the moment I'm completely locked in, and then I end the session and like the surroundings are blurry, my hands are sweaty, you know, like I'm overflowing with sweat, and I'm just like, it's almost like I just saw a bear, you know, my amygdala is in overdrive, fight or flight instinct activated, but I don't notice any of that because I'm in the moment. I'm in a state of flow. Obviously I've had my share of games that I've choked, and when I play one of these guys in a pivotal game, oftentimes the nerves get the better of me, so I'm absolutely susceptible to that. So that was not very organized, but that's my journey.
That was awesome. Do you think that when you play these guys, I kind of know the answer to this, but do you think they don't respect you because you're not an elite GM, traditional standards? Like, over the years, you know, have you heard from some of them without naming names? But
without naming names, they're especially I'd say like a year and a half ago, when I was still not as like known as a streamer and stuff, there was some salt, you know, your 100th digit of your FIDE rating is not a 7, so what are you doing here? Oh, Naroditsky, you know, I still, and I like it. I've learned to embrace it. You know, the flagger, OGM, online GM, that's what my friends call me. That entire like category of things, there were some unnamed GMs, I think, who invoked that notion when I had a particularly successful match against them, but I don't really mind it. And I think that at the end of the day, I think they do respect me. And I think the fact that they play me so many times is to me the ultimate sign of respect, because their time is valuable. I know that sounds stupid, but someone like Jan Nepomniachtchi, like he could be doing a lot of things with his time. And if he chooses to play me in a 20-game match, I appreciate it. I view it as an honor, whatever they may say about me.
Right. Does he still, or has he gone into hibernation for the Magnus match?
No, I haven't played him in a very long time. I think he's gotten into hibernation, and that's unfortunate. I've had a hard time finding opponents recently.
I know, man. It's crazy, right? Change. Like you probably play, dude. Even I'm 2700, 2800. I play. It seems like the same 15 people every day. It's
been weird. I don't really get why. Where is like Grishuk and MBL? Like, don't they want to play? Don't they want to play Blitz? They turn out for Title Tuesdays and stuff. I don't get why there's been such a problem during COVID.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I don't know. And like I said, it's even weirder for me because I got a ton of people who are 2700 that are not 3000, 3100.
Right.
You know, maybe another good example, by the way, of the kind of player and the strength of a player that is around your level, like Wonderful Time is a pretty unknown, maybe in the global competitive scene. This guy's like a 3,000, 3,100 player, and he's crazy too. But his openings drive me nuts. He plays like the same.
They drive me nuts too, and I'm good friends with him. But I always complain when I play. I'm like, please, are you gonna play the London again? Like, it's the same stuff every single game. I can't play like that personally. I need to mix things up. But yeah, more power to Min.
We talked about it briefly, but I did want to ask you, as we move to classical, not just the online. So I'm an IM, and my thing that I'm asked all the time is about the GM title, right? That's the next thing. When are you gonna get it? Right. You're not gonna get it. You are gonna get it. We support you. We hate you. Go fuck yourself. You're never gonna get the GM title.
Levy didn't get a GM norm in Charlotte. I'm not watching him anymore.
I know it's actually interesting.
He promised.
I know it's interesting. People don't really understand this is going to take 3 to 5 years minimum, like especially with the work that goes into it,
right?
And it goes into everything else. I believe that if I dropped everything in a controlled setting and I spent 6 to 8 hours every day, I could get it in 2 years.
Yeah.
But dude, like the other day, for the first time in maybe 7 years, I spent the whole day studying chess. The whole day. Like, with intervals. Dude, by the end of it, I had a headache. Like, I hadn't spoken to Lucy the entire day. It's a totally different mind that you're in. Memorizing these lines, studying these games, looking at the patterns, looking at it with Stockfish. You come back, you gotta memorize all of it too. It's
right.
Terrible. So
especially with opening files, yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of what I was working on. So I'm gonna pass it to you on the classical front. For me, it's the GM title. For you, is there there are questions for sure, but is there a personal inner fire or question as to, for example, 2650, 2700? If you dedicated yourself fully to classical, could you be a 2700 level player? Why did you stop like where you stopped at 26? I think you were like 2630 or something.
2620, 25, yeah. The big number is 2700. That is the number that's constantly haunting my mind. And I don't like starting sentences with the phrase people don't understand, but I don't say this lightly. I've struggled to convey this, I think, to my community on stream. It's like either I drop everything or, I'm playing in the US Championship. I have ambitions. I'm trying to study when I can. It's not a 0 or 1 thing entirely, but in many ways it is. And I've been open about this. I have gone very much back and forth on the question of like, how much of a inner fire do I have to hit 2700? What is going to change? And the process that I often go through is, well, on the one hand, nothing is actually going to change if I hit 2700, right? Okay, I might get some more invites. I might get some more students, but it's not like anybody is going to look at me really differently because I'm 2700 rather than 2600, even if I was 2500. So the motivation cannot be extrinsic in the sense that like, oh, this is materially going to be different. And so to me, honestly, one of my motivations is that I want to become better at Blitz.
Okay.
I want to go from being top 5, top 10 Blitz and Bullet to being number 1. And there are certain people I would have to surpass along the way who shall go unnamed. Well, and in order to get better at Blitz, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, we can name Magnus, I think.
Right. Magnus, Hikaru. I mean, people like Andrew Tang and Min, who I go 50-50 with in Blitz. Into my 30s, I want to at least maintain my Blitz level. I don't want to drop off because I can see myself, having that passion, even if I'm retired from competitive chess, to play Blitz. And at my level, I can't play Blitz to get better at Blitz anymore. I need to get better at classical chess in order to get better at Blitz. That's the only way forward. I've mastered all of the Blitz specific skills. Now, what I think is lacking in my Blitz play are some of those weaknesses I mentioned earlier, converting positions, positional understanding. And people watching might be like, well, didn't you just say that was not important? Well, it's not the most important thing, but in my opinion, that's the difference between me and 3200 Blitz. And of course, it will bring me tremendous happiness also to get better at classical and to do well at top level tournaments. But one of my motivations, one of the things that's nibbling at me is, I want to start streaming and I do want to go plus score against Hikaru sometimes. And I do want to feel like I'm actually progressing. So I'm not really answering a question, but there is an inner fire. But because of everything that I do teaching and streaming, I am vacillating. I'm going back and forth. Some days I'm like, I need to drop everything and spend the next 6 months training. The next day I'm like, I love my students. I want to go stream. You know, why am I really doing this? I don't really need this. It's really tough. It's tough to make this decision, and I am vacillating back and forth.
Well, I'm not trying to become a 2700, but I can tell you that even trying to get my openings to a GM level is brutal because of all the prep that's out there and the people that are chasing. I just played this tournament and 3 people had the GM title already. They weren't even anywhere near the top rated players in the section, and 2 people in the section became GMs. So we and 2 more
everyone's
people,
really good now.
Yeah, like, and 2 more people have 2 norms. So what is that? 7 people? The 8th person has 1 GM norm, and then it's me and Steve. We
right.
The 2 bozos of the group, you know.
Right.
It was a brutal section, and no disrespect to him. I'll be the bozo. I'll be the designated bozo.
You'll be the
we provided some ridiculous fireworks in the final game of that tournament. It's crazy because I'm sitting here with my openings database. I'm reviewing everything, and I get it there. And then the next day, I go to play Blitz. I don't remember half the shit I studied.
Oh, it's terrible, dude. Opening study now is impossible. I don't understand how I play some people who they know everything. It's like every line I go into, they somehow remember it. My memory is good, but I can't remember shit when it comes to openings. I confuse move orders all the time, and it's so depressing. Like, I have a lot of files that I could just spend like months trying to memorize, but I feel it's training in the modern era is like so depressing. And then like nothing is guaranteed. I might come to the next tournament and get crushed by a 2300 and, you know, I lose 10 points. I think people also need to realize that, like, even if you're dedicating 6-8 hours a day, that doesn't necessarily translate into like instant improvement. Nothing's is guaranteed in life. Everybody's training now. So it's a dog-eat-dog world in chess right now, in classical chess.
Yeah, it's crazy at 2612. I mean, particularly if you don't ever sign up for a GM round robin, you're gonna be the hunted there with truthfully, it's so much of it is preparation. Do you keep up with trendy lines or trendy openings, or scroll through these like live like Sharjah Masters, you know, for example? Are you keeping up with that stuff, or not? Like very like little bit?
Just a little bit. I keep up with the results mostly, but I don't have the discipline to seek out games in my openings and see the new developments. I'll do that occasionally. Like I'll just look at the last couple of tournaments, but you know, one of my biggest roadblocks is openings have always been a weakness, and I hate studying openings. To me, openings, I just want to get out into an interesting position, and that's it. And I get so annoyed when I'm playing somebody who's just like blitzing out moves long after I'm out of my prep. And I get annoyed for 2 reasons. The first is like irrational. I'm like, this fuck, like knows everything.
Stop fucking moving.
Right. And people, you know, give me shit for this in a good nature, where like he sees everything. Like, of course he knows it. And so I get annoyed that way. But then I'm like, why didn't I sit my ass down and study this line like once in my life? But then for every one of those lines, there's going to be 800 other lines I didn't study. So it's brutal. It's just brutal.
So literally the same day, I had studied a line in an opening that I was preparing, and which I can't really leak, because I don't know if one of my next opponents will be watching the podcast. Hopefully not. But I go to play some games. I'm playing some 2850 GM. I'm like, all right, nice. Here we go. Let's get this win. He plays some shit, you know. He plays like some terrible. He doesn't play like any of the top like 5 moves in the critical position, and just I'm completely winning from the opening, and then I just get destroyed. I'm like, dude, why did I spend the whole day looking out for this opening advantage? If 5 moves later, I'm driving the car off a cliff, and it's so difficult because it's not just about getting to that position. It could be plus 0.8, but it's complicated, and
you gotta find only move, and
When you were at the peak of your powers in classical, when you got past the opening, was it literally just I'm looking at this board and I'm gonna try to find the best move, or at your level, is it, well, based on these games that I know, right? That's a big thing. Oh, Grishuk MVL,
Right.
2018, or structures, or how does your brain work once you get out into some position that's new?
Right. I mean, I tend to have a very concrete approach. Like I'm always biased in favor of specific variations. And I notice this is a distinction between even some GMs. Like I don't talk to myself a lot during the game. I mean, I talk to myself in terms of variations. I'll make some observations about the position, but then I'll delve into calculation because that's what I know how to do best. Then, I took a couple of lessons from Alexander Onishuk, who is like a very, traditional Russian positional player, 2700. And, Onishuk, he told me, what are you, there is nothing to calculate here. It's just clearly better for, the stereotypical, like the Russian GM comes over, waves his hand and just says white's better. And then you analyze for 5 hours and he's right. Okay, obviously that's partially stereotyped because what people forget about that is Onishuk is also a beast of a calculator. But there is this incredibly deep understanding of and what does it have to do with? It has to do with understanding pawn structures better, understanding which factors of the position to value above others, which I sometimes don't. Having a much better conversion technique. So like he will understand when to go into an endgame. I struggle with this tremendously. Like, do I go into the slightly better endgame? Or do I go for this attack? And whichever option I choose, I'll look at the computer and the other option is like clearly winning. And like, then I look at it after the game and you all of a sudden understand exactly why, but during the game, you didn't focus on the right factor. So I'd say this has brought me both success and obviously has led to tragedy when my understanding has proven woefully insufficient. And I think it really shines through when I play these top guys. Like sometimes I just get blown off the board and I'm like, I had no idea what was going on that entire game. And my opponent was completely in control. Like somebody like Dominguez is just like a great example of that. Like the guy, I played him in aim chess and I felt like I wasn't just being crushed. It was like he was on another plane operating at a completely different level. It's crazy.
Which game was that? What was the
Najdorf. I was white in a Najdorf and every time I would play a move, I'd be like, I calculated everything. Oh shit, he has this one other move I didn't calculate, and he would play it. Like every single time this would happen.
That's interesting. He's almost like, well, now he's getting more known, but dude, before like 2 years ago, I mean, I call me ignorant, but he was just that high-rated guy. I knew nothing about him or his playing style. I just knew he had a high rating. And yeah, it's interesting because now he's an American. We're building the boat to take on Magnus, but he's Magnus at the end of the day. How was that for you, getting invited to play and then playing this aim chess?
I had a fucking blast. Honestly, it was an amazing experience. I did have a bad taste in my mouth because I was doing so well. And then the breaking point, the last day, I have a winning move against MVL in one move. In one move, he resigns. And I wasn't even looking for it because I was way too trusting. I lose that game and I just get really tilted. Then I lost to Dominguez and Mamidyarov. So I was really entertaining prospects of qualifying, but it was incredible. Just playing these top guys, winning that game against Wesley. That's what I live for. At the end of the day, not to make this all philosophical and existential, but at the end of the day, the number next to your name, it's like, it's not permanent. And it's like, you can't derive happiness from results alone. You have to, it's the games that I remember, those moments when you sacrifice the queen against Wesley. That's what I'm going to be telling my grandkids about, not the fucking 10 points I gained in some tournament. So, in a way, I view these tournaments as an opportunity for me to create these very positive memories, even if in the end I have a minus score.
Yeah, I was going to say, as I was scrolling through some games on my other monitor, particularly this MVL game. I remember at some point, like in the second day, once I saw the Wesley game, and I was like, Naroditsky's in the top 8? Holy shit.
Right.
Oh my God. Like that's, I mean, forgive me. Well, actually, forgive me, not for doubting you, but more so for not even following that tournament. Like, there's too many of them. Like, it's just truth.
Right. I don't follow them. I wouldn't follow it even if somebody else was playing. If I was in it, I didn't even know the standings myself. So you're forgiven.
What What was it like on the inside? I feel like it's like you're on what, like a big call with everybody, or
Yeah, so it's interesting. The way it works is there's like Microsoft Teams and Zoom. You have to be on two calls. You need two cameras.
Mhm.
One is the main camera on my desktop, and then I have a phone. I got this like little table, and I put my phone behind me, and you have to basically show you and the computer screen from behind.
Mhm.
So there's always a phone training. It's a little bit disconcerting because sometimes I look back and there's just like a phone looking at me. And you're on a Zoom call, and everything is through chat. Like the arbiter says, game start in 5 minutes, and that's it. The game start automatically. It's pretty simple, and then you got to be ready to get invited on an interview. But like honestly, being on camera all the time, it is you do feel like you're playing for a big audience. I tend to move around a ton in my seat. Like I'm not one of those people who just sits the same position. I'm like rocking back and forth, and I'm grabbing my head. And I remember like rewatching the main broadcast, and I think one of the commentators like, yeah, like Naroditsky is not sitting still. But then I'm like, do other people find it that easy to just sit motionless? Like I'm nervous, and I'm putting my blood, sweat, and tears in this. I feel like it's pretty natural to do what I do, but it is, it's a cool experience.
Yeah, some of them are completely just sitting still the whole time. One lip twitch and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a guy who plays a lot of blitz and bullet, but in classical will get into time trouble?
I'd say I'm in the middle. I think I don't
Okay.
usually get an acute time pressure. I'm pretty good with that, I think.
Okay. Yeah, you're not a Grishuk or.
I wish, but maybe I should just sit until I get into time pressure. That'll bring out my blitz strength. That's something I should try.
Dude, I struggled with this in this I Am Speed Chess Championship. I mean, there were games I was winning 2 seconds versus, a minute. I mean, I just had a game in Charlotte against Justin Wang. I had a minute versus 35, and he was just completely winning. And I drew.
Wow.
I mean,
Well, sometimes you play your best chess and you have like 5 seconds.
because you're locked in completely. It's like being on drugs.
You can't afford a single distraction. Like you can't.
No, it's it was cool to see you get the invite, and then the rough last day. But imagine you made the top 8. That would
have been sick.
Do you have anybody on your radar who you wanted to knock out in a playoff? Do you consider yourself the favorite against anybody in a rapid blitz?
Oh God. I mean, well, I thought I like against someone like Kwong. There's certain people I think my crazy style tends to work. Like Kwong, I felt confident. Like against Van Forest, and again, no disrespect intended at all, but I felt there were people I felt more confident against. Even Aronian, he was moving really fast, and then at one point I'm like, I'm going to call your bluff, and I sacked a knight in a King's Indian, and he responded immediately. I'm like, there is no way that the guy calculated everything. I don't give a shit what his rating is, and indeed it was a blunder. I was completely winning, and of course I choked it all in one move. But someone like Aronian, I would love to play. Geary. I mean, all these guys are just my heroes on a day-to-day basis, and then you get a chance to play them in a match. It's like, it's surreal. So I was determined to not make a fool of myself.
Oh my God, I'm seeing this game against Levon.
Yeah, that was fucking crazy.
Oh my God, yeah. Actually, I would recommend someone, if you're interested while listening, go to the Aim Chess US Rapid Prelims, and check out some of those games. I didn't even realize, but this is the second game that I'm seeing where your opponent has 10 minutes and you have less than 1, and
in Aim Chess
so
it was
fast.
A huge problem, time pressure. Like in classical, it's not a big problem, but maybe it would be if I played the top guys. I was getting so annoyed at this. Against MVL, this happened too. I had 5 minutes and he had spent 1 minute. I'm like, how the fuck is this guy not like blundering? And he did blunder, but these guys are all like, even Wesley, like they all somehow, they make some of these critical decisions in 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, how did you physically manage to decide something like that? And it's a mixture of a lot of things, it's confidence. And I tend to get so bogged down in like one particular variation. I have a bad sense of time moving along, and then I've got 2 minutes. The worst is to have 2 minutes against MVL. You're fucked.
Yeah.
Like you just know he's going to create something, some intrigue. And it's the same feeling with Hikaru when you're like up a piece and you've got 15 seconds left.
I've played him enough in Bullet and Blitz that even in my best positions, I look at the clock and it's just hopeless.
Right.
Because for me, for example, he'll play moves like even against you. Whenever I've played you in Bullet or even I don't think we've played a huge amount of Blitz, but
Right.
I'll spend like 10 seconds on a position and you play a move that I didn't even, not that I didn't even evaluate, I didn't see. Like I didn't see you could make that move. And now I'm like, all right, I spent 10 seconds and you spent one, and now you played a move, and it keeps going from there. So, but do you have any other tournament plans or just?
Well, after US Championship, I'm playing US Masters, which is actually conveniently going to be in Charlotte.
I'm going to be there.
It's going to be
so.
nice. It's going to be a Thanksgiving weekend. So I mean, after that, I don't have anything planned after late November. I mean, I'm definitely going to play a couple of tournaments this coming year. I want to see how I do in the US Championship. And unfortunately, my preparation has definitely not gone according to plan. Like I basically had a month to prepare. And again, I think a lot of people might think that's a long time, but you can support me on this. Like in a chess context, a month is nothing.
Well, so
like
you're preparing against Fabiano, right? So I feel like
and I'm like, fuck, like there's way too many openings to learn. I know I want to be realistic here. I'm optimistic, but I'm also realistic. I know that there is a chance that I just get, pardon my French, that I just get fucked. And I think the key to my approach to this tournament, like I have come to terms with the fact that if it happens, it happens. I keep my head high and it's not the end of the world. I lose 20 points. You know, I analyze the games. I come back in the US Masters. At the same time, I've made the determination that I'm not going to hold any punches. I have nothing to lose for once. I'm not the favorite, far from it. So it's a cliche, but I'm going to try to have a great time. And that's all that I want to do this tournament is just have a good time.
What's your seeding?
I'm next to last. There's John Michael Burke, but I'm behind
he
Burke.
got the qualifier from juniors.
Yep.
And what is he, like 25-50?
Yeah, something like that, 25, 50, 60 feet.
So the morning or the day before, so in Charlotte, Steve was like 10 points higher than me, but he's a lot more active. So, you know, I didn't even look at him like only 10-point difference. I looked at him also like, you know, 2,400 strength, IM strength. And if you remove him, the average rating difference between me and the next people was like 120 points, like 100. It was insane. It was completely nuts.
Right.
So the morning of, I actually had an anxiety I never experienced ever in my life. I was like, what if I lose all my games? Like straight up.
Right. Oh,
like,
dude,
literally, I was
100%.
like, I was like, what if the prep doesn't work? What if I just fuck up? I mean, like, what if I just straight up lose all my games? I started thinking, like, what's this going to do for my career if I lose all my games?
Right. Zero out of. Well, it has happened to players before. That's the thing. Like at the 2016 US Championship, I went 2.5. I went 3 out of 11. 3 out of 11, and I was in the middle of the pack.
In which year?
2016.
Did you play Wesley So that year?
I lost to him in the first round.
Was it a Nimso?
It was an IMSO.
Yeah.
Damn,
I was studying that line recently, and I saw that. No, don't leak this. But
right now.
Yeah, I was studying that line for black, and you know, studying some F3 Nimso for black, and I saw that, and I was like, oh wow, and they were showing, you know, B6, maybe not, and I'm like, oh, what the Naroditsky, 2016, right. That recent? I thought you were playing like 8 years ago or something in the US Championship.
I was during my gap year, and the funny thing about that term, right, is I'm in the middle of the pack. I'm 2647. I was at my peak, or 2640. No, it's 2640. And I lose to Wesley. I had a draw at some point. I'm not concerned. I lose to Caden Trofe in the second round, who was 100 points below me. And I just get crushed. And then I wasn't even that tilted. I was just coming to the board and making stupid fucking moves. Right. And you know how because then you play Onishuk and you play Hikaru. And before I knew it, I was like half a point out of 5. And I had that fear. I was like, what if I lose the rest of the games? Like, I'm never going to recover from this. And then I was like, you know, that's essentially what happened. I mean, I won 1 game against Holt, and then I drew the last round against Kamsky, and I dropped 25 points. And after that, I went with part of the U.S. team to the World Team Championships in Armenia. We flew straight from St. Louis.
Wow.
So I played these guys, and now I play with them. And at that tournament, I beat my first Super GM, Yakovenko. I didn't do amazingly at the World Team Championship, but I did okay. I just realized, like, shit moves on. Like, people get up in the morning and they go to work, and on the one hand, it really does matter how many points I score. And now that I have a big community, I do have that fear right now. Like I do have that fear. Like, what if I'm so unprepared? I blunder every game. I go out of 11, and if it happens, it happens. But I don't think so. I think, I always have this fear, and then you
sort of figure it out.
Play better than you think. You figure shit out. Some things go your way, some things don't. But
yeah.
This conversation will not age well if I do get out of 11.
Oh man, and the thing is, this might upload in 3 to 4 weeks, and the U.S. Championship starts when?
It's in 2 weeks. It's October 4th.
All right, well,
so I'll probably be playing while it uploads.
Whenever people listen to this, I'll record in the intro, like, oh well, this is how Daniel scored.
Right.
It's I thought about it from the community standpoint, and also just from the standpoint of. Like Hikaru once mentioned, he asked me, he said, like, when you see people write hate about you, does it motivate you to shut them up? And I was like, not really. Like, hate always made me laugh more than anything. It doesn't motivate me or upset me or anything.
Right.
But the problem is that neither, like, support also, it doesn't, for me, it's not like I'm going to read a bunch of support and go, okay, I got to do this for the fans. No, like, I love the fans, but I got to do it, like, for me first. Like, I have to go put in all these hours and actually get the job done. But I'll safely say, and I've said this many times, like, if and when I hit that GM title, I'm done. I'm never playing classical chess ever again.
I feel the same way about 2700, actually. I feel identically about 2700. I feel like I wouldn't go so far as to say I will never play a tournament again, but I will definitely, if I manage to hit 2700, I feel like I will be fully at peace with, like, I fulfilled my potential. From now on, I will play only for fun. And I know this might come as a disappointment to people, but, like, that I know for sure. And I know for a fact that in my 30s and 40s, I don't want to be going from hotel to hotel. I want to be teaching chess and playing fucking Blitz and maybe doing chess related stuff. I love the game. I will never depart from the game. But I think some people don't realize, like, you can love the game, but there are so many stressors that come with playing classical chess. It is brutal. It takes a tremendous toll on various aspects of your, like, being.
Oh yeah, it's brutal, man. It's brutal. I was uploading those photos of myself in Las Vegas, and that also could have been coupled with just smoke in the eyeballs for 6 hours.
Right.
For 6 days, but I was in bad shape. I lost some weight after Vegas, but in Charlotte I was actually not so bad. It's pretty nuts. I did not intend to spend almost the entire hour and a half talking specifically about chess, but I'm sure people have enjoyed it. I wanted to even get to know you a little bit personally, and for other people beyond chess. All I know about you beyond the chessboard, like, you're big into history. It was your degree. Big reader. Like, anytime I tune into your stream, I, like, learn some shit because I'm stupid. Like, I don't read books at all. I bought a book. I left it on page 20 because for me, I can't read at any point during the day. I'm always sleepy until, like, 9 p.m. basically, and then I'm like productive, and then I'm sleepy again. So I never have an opportunity to actually dive into a book. So yeah, what do you do that's not chess?
Right, what's my deal?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't read nearly as much as I love the concept of books.
Yeah, your mic just is weird.
I think you should be able to hear me now.
Yeah, it's good.
So I don't do nearly as much reading as people think I do. I love the concept of books. I do a lot of surfing. Like, I'll surf through books. I love history books, and I love learning about, individual historical personalities. I love reading about obscure figures that were movers and shakers, like reading about, or reading about historical events, and from the angle of finding out interesting tidbits about the actors involved. Like, I love reading about the personal lives of, like, kings and queens, or reading about, the letter that frickin', Abraham Lincoln sent to his wife, where he complained about his, like, stomach pains or whatever. I love the humanizing aspect of history, where you begin to realize that all of these people are just people. I also love, I like all sorts of books, which I don't read. I like thrillers, and I particularly am a huge fan of horror. I think this is something a lot of people don't know about me. I'm a big, big horror nut. I love horror movies. I'm a big American Horror Story fan. I've watched all the seasons. I'm currently watching season 10, and the episode comes out Wednesday at 10 p.m. and I am pegged to the TV. So I could get into why that is, but long story short, I like mystery, I like horror, and I also love sports. This is not what you asked me, of course, but yeah, I'm a big basketball and football fan, and I watch a lot of games and I read a lot of sports trivia and waste a ton of time just browsing.
I didn't know you were that big into NBA. I thought you were a little bit into football. Like football, the one they throw.
Yes, the one they throw.
Okay.
American football.
Not the So the season started. You must be hyped. Are you cheer for?
I am.
49ers. 49ers, yeah.
Oh, Warriors and 49ers. I have waned a little bit since COVID started. Like in 2000, just to give you some context, I watched every single Warriors game for about 5 years. Like I would record it and I would watch every single game. And when COVID started, like it just wasn't quite the same, and I kind of dropped off. But this coming season with Klay Thompson back, I'll be watching every game. So I haven't gone around to rooting for Charlotte yet. I'm still like a Bay person at heart.
Yeah, I'm friendly with Gordon Hayward. I don't know if you remember all that, but
I do. You did a lesson with him.
Yeah, that was crazy. He messaged me the other day. He was like, I hit 1,200.
Are you serious? That's awesome.
I was like, dude, this is dope. I never had any doubts. But he got traded to Charlotte, and it just hit me. I was like, when he played in Boston, I thought maybe he comes to New York or something, and maybe, I could dap him up, sit like by the team or something. Then he went to Charlotte. I was like, damn. And then COVID happened. I was like, damn.
Right. Double damn. Yeah.
Okay. I'm never gonna. I'm a big sports guy. I'm also excited for the return of Klay Thompson. I'm not a huge fan of.
Yeah, also plays chess, by the way.
Yeah, he does. I've like anytime he goes live and he's like reading the comments on his boat, I'm always like, "Yo, Clay, when are we playing?" But I have yet to receive a response. Mixed martial artist George St. Pierre is apparently played chess when he was a kid. Did you see that Mark Hunt was 2000? You know who that is?
I don't.
He's a powerful guy. He's like a Samoan guy, I think from New Zealand, or I don't want to get it wrong. I think it's New Zealand. It might be Australia, but I think it's New Zealand. He's 2000.
Jesus.
Yeah, he's just like a heavyweight fighter.
Casually 2000.
I think it's him. Like that's what people were saying.
I love finding. I have this weird fascination. Like I love finding out that people play chess. So if there's a famous person, I will Google search that person chess. And one time out of 50, you'll be like, oh shit, like there was some article about that person playing chess. It could be a politician, it could be anybody.
Dude, there's got to be so many people on chess.com, right? Like we've discovered even with PogChamps that some people just have accounts for so long, and I definitely it was definitely fascinating to think about that. If anybody was looking to learn chess, not just maybe watch or browse around or something like that, they were gonna see me, you, Hikaru, Rosen, Antonio, like, cause we do like a lot of instructive stuff. So, and then it's just it started getting recommended to everybody. Like every single person was gonna get. I saw you have this video, Grandmaster Plays Amateurs, like 2 million views.
Yeah. I was shocked at that. Like it was a random video I decided to record at 5 a.m.
Yeah, I could tell, dude. I could tell.
Dude, it was like my shittiest. Like I mean, made people like it, but it was my shittiest video, and I was like, whatever. I'm just gonna do this video. And I was like, oh my god, it's got like 500,000 views.
It was your first video you recorded just for YouTube, right?
Yep, my first. So I have not taken the hint. I haven't done any other YouTube specific videos, but.
Really?
I'm going to do that. I mean, that's in the pipeline. I'm going to start making videos. Just
wait. So all your speedruns you record on stream?
Twitch, yes, they're all streamed.
All right, Daniel. I'm just going to tell you right now, as the resident YouTube expert in this conversation, you need to record just for YouTube, dude. Like,
okay, I'll get on that.
It's hard though. It's hard because a part of me, like a part of my soul has disappeared in this like YouTube game. Like, I mean, just the constant brainstorming of ideas that aren't out there yet.
Right.
It's really not for everyone. Like you are your best, version of instructional value and content when you do your runs. Like I stopped doing that because I couldn't do it anymore. Like I needed to do other things, like the 10 best chess moves ever played or some shit like that. So if you have it within yourself, yeah, like brainstorm and come up with that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's what do you want to do, right? Because the more you fuel that, I love that of all this. I love that. And if it means all the other videos do well, because you have to understand, the more consistent you are and the more videos you put out, maybe YouTube specific, like people are gonna like that a lot. But I'm just gonna give you a warning: you might stop liking streaming so much, because the ROI on YouTube is not the same as Twitch.
Right. I understand.
It's Twitch. But you kind of have like a thing you do. You can boot up your streams and talk to your chat and listen to some music and also win like 70% of your games. You know.
No, I love stream, but I do want to do YouTube specific stuff. Like I've built up this speed run, but I want to do more shit, and I want to like, I have ideas for YouTube content. I've just been lazy. I
think if people look at all the channels. If a person has sampled all the channels, they're gonna say that the most instructive like place that they've had fun, and like learned a lot is probably at your channel. I might be second or third. There might be Bartholomew. There might be like, I have a lot of stuff, but I always see the comparison like Naroditsky, and I'm like, yeah, because it's like awesome. Like, I mean, this guy is doing this like all the videos you upload. So I'm shocked that you've never uploaded specifically. Well, if you take anything away. But it's like I said, it's hard because I literally have sticky notes on my desktop right here, brainstorming future ideas. So
the one thing I'll say is that I have this anxiety that I don't have when I'm streaming, because when I'm streaming, I know I don't have to be perfect. When I'm doing a YouTube video, there's like, I mean, the limited ones I've done, there's just this like constant voice in my head that's like, oh, you said this one word wrong, it's not gonna be perfect.
Yep.
And I feel like there's a certain permanence when it comes out, and all of your mistakes are amplified, and then I listen to it, I'm like, this is shit. So I keep re-recording it, and I just need to get over that, because everybody understands that like it doesn't have to be perfect, and it's just every video doesn't have to be legend. It doesn't have to do Gangnam Style like every video.
Well, you and I are on the same page that the old content is like terrible. I look at some of my old opening videos, I'm like, what is this? Right. What is this? I look like I'm at gunpoint and I'm being interrogated and I have to make this video like a ransom note or something. But yeah, I mean, invest if you want, like invest a bit of time into either getting an editor, which I'm sure you've worked with one, or just a little bit of cutting here and there, and realize you could even just say sentences in an intro. You could say a sentence, stop, say another sentence, and realize, if I just make 20 seconds of dynamic content where I'm cutting, like that's good enough. All right, they're hooked.
Right.
And now they're gonna watch the rest. And the more they watch, more ad revenue, more you keep making. Exactly. So, I think if that's the only advice that I can give.
I appreciate it. I'm gonna make a video right after our podcast if you want to know how much it's impacted me. I feel I'm in the zone now, so I'm actually gonna record a puzzle solving video, I think.
There you go.
It's going to be super meta for viewers, because that's going to be up by the time the podcast is up.
Oh yeah, for sure. But you'll have some other stuff. I mean, just off the top of my head, my 5 best chess moves ever, or something like that. You think, go through the positions. You've played tournaments all over the world, right? So people would love to see that. I don't have that because I didn't save my old games. I have all my old score sheets, so I've got some ideas for series. I just gotta sit down and hammer it out. So honestly, man, I had a great time. 90 minutes is like perfect, and it was awesome having you, awesome catching up, and I sometimes get filled in on some of the students and memes and dreams of the chess world, like from Ostrovsky. I know, like he and you guys will banter, and it was also crazy meeting you in person. Like
I know
for the first time.
The fourth wall breaks down, and I just wanted to say, it's a huge pleasure. It's an honor to be on your podcast, and I have so many students and potential students and just kids, and my mom's piano students who are like, my mom will call me and say, they've been watching this YouTuber, do you know Levy Rozman? And I'm like, oh my God, it's crazy. So you've done so much for the chess world, and you're an inspiration, and I
stop it.
Great to continue seeing you blossom. No, I mean it.
I believed you until then.
And I think I see it on a daily basis. So it's great to be here. This is a lot of fun.
It's it's definitely a bit of a strange feeling. Maybe not an inspiration to grandmasters, but yeah, man. I mean, a lot of people they say the same. They're like, my student this or this person. I'm like,
Well, it's true. I mean, it's like numbers don't lie. I think, sometimes I hear people say these cliches like, "Oh, you're such a, it's such an honor, blah blah blah," and then I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." But I think the numbers, the million plus subscribers, that's a material way of enriching people's lives. So you do great stuff, and I hope you continue.
well, I appreciate that. Thank you. When this comes out, you'll will already be past some of the things that we discussed. So, I'll wish you luck at the end of the podcast, and I'll say best of luck in those things. Although you already did them, so hopefully you crush them. And
Thank you.
yeah, man, we'll be in touch. As always, folks, if you've made it this far, I want to say thank you. If you want to support Daniel, you know where to find him on Twitch and on YouTube. And if you'd like to support me or the show, you know where to find me on Twitch, on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and I do have some courses on my website available for purchase. Till next time, I'll see you back here in Gotham City with our next guest.